Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why? There it goes. I kept hitting it to add you, and it wasn't adding you. What through it? We have 3. Hey guys. Thanks.
I can't see comments.
Ain't nobody popping in yet saying anything.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why then.
Goodness, Kenji.
Hey, Kim. Kim, I'm glad you texted me a while ago because I didn't realize what time it was until you text me. Like, crap, I better get going.
I'm looking. There it is. My note thing finally decided to open up because y'all remember I said it wouldn't open up here a while back. Yeah, it finally opened up. I don't know why it was being stupid. And it's been a day or a week or whatever it is.
It's been a rough couple of weeks.
I've just got so much to get done that I'm just like, and then I'm smart like I am and sign up.
Well,
for
it's not like you had a lot of time and then you start another adventure.
Well, I do a whole nother event for next weekend, and it's like, but last time I did this event, and one day I made $600, so it's a good event to do. But it's like the week after farmers market, so I'm like shit.
Right. When Amber was little, I used to do a lot of craft fairs and festivals, but I made license plates, like tags that go in front of cars, and I would freehand whatever they wanted on it. And I'd pack her little 1-year-old butt up, and we would go all over Tennessee on the weekends. And I had a full-time job during the week, but on the weekends we would go and we'd set up at flea markets and craft fairs and all of that. And she was little. I don't think she was walking yet, because I remember taking a playpen and I'd put it in whatever little booth I had. And she would she was such a good baby.
There was no way I could have done it when my kids were little. None. I just 3 kids, and it just was impossible. But
yeah, mine were 7 years apart. So by the time I got Amber in school and being able to get herself ready, of just going in her room and waking her up, then Chase was a newborn. So I never had 2 stacked on each other like that.
Yeah, mine were 4 and 3 years apart. So it was.
I remember being in Nashville. It was Huntsville, Alabama, and I did a craft fair. And the police station come around and got tags for all of their cars. And so these officers were all there, like, telling me what they wanted on their personal tags for their cars. And like, I remember they would sit there and wait their turn, and they would play with Amber, and they gave Amber a badge, a little plastic badge. And when I was done and they paid me, because they, it was like I did all of them. It was like 11 or 12 I did for each one of them. Then I remember the sheriff come around and handed me $100 bill. And that was like made my whole weekend, because I didn't do many sales that weekend except for those police officers. That was a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
for me back then.
Well, and the girl that's running our farmers market, I mean, they keep bragging about how amazing everybody's doing. Well, I think they're talking about the few up under the pavilion where I'm at that are just the home bakers. The home bakers are doing amazing, but
Hmm.
they have 6 tumbler makers, 6 of us. So I'm not selling any tumblers. If I didn't have anything else on my table, I wouldn't be
Well,
selling.
that's bad planning on their part. They
It
shouldn't
is.
allow that many of the same product.
If we were one that, if there were 200 vendors and there were 6, that's one thing, but I think there's 45 vendors. It's way too many. It's just
Hmm.
way too many of the same thing. Luckily, what saves me with tumblers, what I do sell, are my Bluetooth tumblers, because I do specialty items. I keep my Bluetooth speaker tumblers. I keep my little bitty miniature cups that are useless. They're basically a novelty. And then I have another 4-in-1 koozie cup that I always keep those on my table. Those are
I've
what
never heard of the Bluetooth thing.
my Bluetooth ones are huge. They are huge sellers. It's my biggest ticket item. I sell them for $35, and people freak out. Like, if people get to looking at how cool they look, I'll hit play on my iPod on my phone and start playing music out of them, and I'll sell it every time. And when Dave's with me, Dave, he like walks around with it, telling he like brings people back, shows them, and sells them. I mean, he's probably my best seller of those. So I'm adding in the candies, and so the marshmallow thing has been fun. And my I made coffee ones yesterday. Oh dear God, they're so good. I'm gonna have to make some hot chocolate and just put those in it.
Those looked cool.
Yeah, I think, and I was talking with Tracy, and she was giving me some ideas for the guy there that does on what he does. And so I'm like, those are cool ideas for flavors. So I'm just got to research the flavors and just keep adding that in, because those take very little to make, and they're fail proof. In reality, they're just fail proof. And they're, so like, it probably cost me $2 to make a full pan of them, and I can get an 8x8 pan, and they're about 2 inches thick. So I can get, what, 16 if I do 2 inches, 2-inch pieces. So at $2 a piece, that's it's pretty damn good money on them. So, and nobody else is doing those, so I'm gonna jump on that.
What was the other one that you were doing besides fudge?
I do the fantasy fudge and regular old fashioned fudge. I do the marshmallows. I do divinity and,
Divinity. My granny does divinity. Kim's mom does divinity. I claim her as my granny too, but
banana bread. Banana bread is, my kids are like, "You're doing your banana bread, right, Mom?" I like, other people are doing bread, but yeah, I'll do my banana bread. They're like, "Yeah, but that's not your banana bread." I don't know what's so special about my banana bread. It's the same recipe all over the place, but whatever.
mm,
But I'm gonna do them in muffins this week. I bought Hobby Lobby had these really cool muffin tins with lids,
hmm
like a cupcake tin with a lid on it. So I'm gonna do them in those, because I thought that would be totally different, and like especially for the kids, grab them a
right.
little muffin kind of thing. Um,
You need to do monkey bread and send me some.
I've never made monkey bread.
I don't like it with chocolate. I've had it one time. Somebody put, it has a lot of caramel in it, and
Mm.
the last one I had, somebody put chocolate in it, and it just ruined it. Of course, I hate chocolate, but
Oh, I love chocolate. Love
I
chocolate.
hate it.
My first batch of my old fashioned fudge did not, it cooked extra fast, which means it's not as humid in the air. So it was almost burnt taste. It's like borderline. Like you couldn't quite taste. I was not happy with it. It was so hard to eat. I chunked it. So the next batch I made, I was all giddy and dancing in there, because every time it comes out, it just makes me happy, because it's very hard. It's picky. It's just picky. Like you can't look at the pot wrong or the shit'll fail. I mean, it's just super picky. And my mom taught me how to make that. And I have probably made that since I was 14. I've young. I was really young. But I used to make up all of these things for Christmas, and I would put them in the little Tupperware containers, little cheap Tupperware things, and put bows on them. And Dave would take them to work and give them to the guys. The kids would take it to their teachers. And so one year, one of the guys, Dave hadn't worked with him in a few years, and he had seen Dave, and he says, "Dude, the one thing I missed working with you was your wife's candy at Christmas." So he went to work. The guy come on one time and he's like, "Does your wife still send candy to work?" He's like, "I'm sure I can arrange that."
Did Dave miss me this time?
You
We
know,
normally
he would.
have like a 3-hour conversation just to get on his nerves, and we
Yeah,
didn't this time.
he wasn't even home long enough to do anything. He was come home Sunday, got home Sunday about noon, and then left this morning. So literally, and he took Benadryl Monday night because when he mowed, I guess the grass made him itch, or he weed eated. I mowed, and he was itching, so he took Benadryl. Well, he took 2 Benadryls at 11 o'clock at night. So his ass was sleepy yesterday. So
I had you and Christy's men at home this week, so it's been a quiet week.
And if y'all are on the Florida coast in the line of that hurricane, please be safe. Take precautions. Hi, Desiree.
Hey, Des.
Des, am I saying that right? Is it Desiree? Desirea?
That's my Des.
Oh, okay.
It's Desiree.
Okay.
But we call her Desi.
But be safe in the storm. This is a bad storm. Like up into Tennessee, y'all are getting tropical storm weather.
It's rained for 2 solid days. And of course, my roof is tin.
This that's coming in tomorrow is going to be worse. So I don't know how close to that cone you're going to be in. I guess it's going to depend on when it hits, how it goes up. But they're saying like all of Georgia and part of Tennessee are under this tropical storm warning.
Mm-hmm.
So
they shut Dollywood down today because it flooded.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. So I hate that for the people of Florida, but sorry, I'm glad it's not us. We've had enough hurricanes for a while. I'm done. And as everybody knows, Mama Dukes has passed away, and so we want to give our deepest condolences to her family and those that loved her, despite any of the conflict that might have transpired. Our hearts are truly saddened with them, and our prayers go out to them. Good morning, Journey, or good afternoon, Journey. I said good morning because it's good morning for her, but it's afternoon for us, or evening. I've had a lot of messages about it, people asking if it was true, and those kinds of things. And it is, guys, it is true. So, and that's,
it
I guess,
is. The word that I got was she was doing great. Her numbers were good. Doctors were happy with the results. She had lost some weight and her numbers had gotten better, and she was doing fantastic. And her husband said she just dropped. No warning, just dropped. So I'm not sure. I'm not really comfortable telling too much more,
right?
But it is real. And they tried working with her for over an hour and just couldn't get her back.
So, anyways, let's go ahead and dive into this case. And I know you sent me pictures, but I don't know which ones you want first. I guess I should open them up.
You can just put a picture of Jason up there. There's not really a lot that this AI software that I have right now is a joke. So I've got to up my subscription to get the one that we're used to that has a lot more power. The one that we have is good for crime scenes.
Oh, that's that one. Okay.
It's not so great for stuff like this. I was telling AI what I needed, and it was giving me. How would you explain the picture that I sent you? That it was kicking out at me?
I just
Bare bottomed.
yeah, one of
So
them was naked, and she didn't even put naked in
no,
there.
I literally told the AI in detail what I needed, and usually the software that I use is a very powerful AI. But me and Brandy we decided to get this software because it really leans towards the crime scenes and stuff like that, which, we plan to do a lot of. So that we were excited. I'm still excited about the software itself for what we need it for. It's great. And it had an AI. So I didn't think we needed the powerful one that I usually use because this one had an AI. Well, not all AI are the same. I'm learning that. And I would, give the description and everything that I wanted it to produce. And a simple command. I just wrote a simple command, which supposed to have produced a picture of a shadow of a man with a hammer going after another man, but I wanted it shadow. I didn't want, like faces to show. And what it gave me was almost pornographic. So I told Brandy, I don't know what is going on with this software, but it is not what we're used to. So
Yeah, the boys. She had the boys on the bed, and it with she did scared faces, and it literally looked like they had their eyes popping out of their head, like they were Beetlejuice or something. It was just weird. And then another one, it had the guy naked, and it was like, what the hell is
I was
it
like,
trying
this,
to do?
not all AI is the same.
Like I
I
was
told
going
Brandy, I was like, you've got to see the faces of these kids.
she sent it to me with no Bodie, get out of that with no explanation. And I'm like, am I supposed to like this or not like this? Like I didn't know what to say
She's
to
trying to
her.
be nice.
I'm like, I don't. I said, it's
She's
like
like,
I
can
don't.
you just make them sad?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know what to say to. And then she starts laughing. She's like, it's horrible, right? I'm like, okay, good. She didn't like it either. It's
It was
like,
bad because I put in the command and I told him that I wanted the back of a man, a shadow of a man
he
looking
did
at two little boys on the top bunk bed, sitting on the top bunk bed with fear in their eyes. And
Kim says P Diddy AI.
oh my gosh. And the look of fear on these kids' faces was like not what I meant. Their eyes were bulging out of their head. It was crazy.
I mean, it
So
literally like Beetlejuice eyes, like they were like cartoonish looking. It was weird. And I don't know what it was thinking, but it is not near as good as that other AI program.
no, we're gonna have to I'm gonna have to make sure we have the right AI. But I thought two birds with one stone. It's our software for the crime scenes and it's AI, and I was so excited. Now it kicks butt for the crime scene. I'm telling you, crime scene stuff, we got it.
But it wasn't
We got
doing
all
so,
the bells and
wasn't doing
whistles.
so good with the depiction of what a scene should look like. I mean, do you want me to put that? Didn't you fix one of them?
I finally got one of them fixed.
I mean,
Well, as fixed as well as I could with this type of software. It still wasn't right.
I can put the one up so they can laugh.
They put the funny one up where their eyes are like crazy.
Okay, let me go find it.
And then Brandy sent me over some stuff she wanted me to do. She wanted me to put her face on, on another face with dragons beside her. And it didn't turn out good either. This AI is just
I'm
sucks.
not doing the naked booty one. That one is just weird.
Come on, cats. Stop.
Send that one. Send that one. See, the one isn't too bad. But the one with the naked booty cracks me the hell up.
We can't show that one.
No, I'm not showing that one. So let's see.
Listen, we could do 2 hours of just AI gone wrong. Some of the stuff that I put the commands in and it pops up, you're thinking, wow.
I wish this was like TikTok. I'd be sending gifts and roses.
We have super chats.
There's a dollar sign. You can do super chats. It's sort of like I would love it if we had the little things going up on the screen. That would be so cool. Okay, so let's see. Choo, 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 choo. Okay. Oh, and I can't see which one is which. Let's see. Okay, it's going to be a crapshoot, guys. Which one am I pulling up? Let's see. Oh, it would be this one.
Look at their faces.
This one was in between. Like it's not.
The man's supposed to be his back, holding a Bible, going to their bedroom to read them a Bible story and pray with them. And they supposed to have fear on their eyes because they really fear this man. Of course, with the AI, you have to break that down in detail. You have to break it down to the type of lighting that you want and everything. And it was crazy, some of the stuff it was throwing at me.
Let's see. Can y'all
Look
see
at their face. And all I put was fear in their eyes.
Look, and that's not the bad one, Kim. This is the bad one. Hold on. Let me get the bad one. The bad one, it's sadly, it's funny. It's just funny as hell.
And I didn't want it realistic. I want it.
Is this it? Or did it give me the same one?
No, it's a different one. I just can't see.
I'm trying to pull it up because it hides all of them behind my screen. Okay, there it is.
Their bodies are not even figured right. They're like all messed up.
Yeah,
Bless their hearts. That one looks like what's that guy, Mr. Bean? That one kid looks like Mr. Bean. You know who that is?
No.
You don't know who Mr. Bean is?
No, I don't think
looks like Mr. Bean.
I might and just not realize. So this one, this one isn't too bad.
I think that was the best I could get.
This one was pretty. This one was okay. Yeah, this one kind of felt like it showed kind of what she was doing.
So I had a bigger plan for this case with the AI, and until we get the other software paid, we're just not going to have the software with the AI stuff. I gotta let these darn cat out of this bedroom. I thought I had them all out. Come on. Go, cat. Kitty. Okay. I guess it went out.
Okay.
These things just keep getting huge. Okay, we ready?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So first, let me start off that this case is going to come with a warning.
Let me get us a banner.
Yeah, we need to put a banner up there. It talks about, and we got to be careful what words we use. You know, they'll strike us. So it's going to deal with a lot of
I like this one better.
With child abuse and essay on children. So it just, a lot of that hits home for a lot of us. So just know it comes with a warning. But this is a profound account of vengeance and retribution and vigilante behavior. In no way do we encourage that type of behavior, but it's a thought that's probably entered most of our minds at one point or another.
Well, and it happens to be something we cheer on. In reality, we don't want people to take the law into their own hands. But when they do, we're like, serves them right, good for them. They, finally. And this is a series I've wanted to do for a while. And she mentioned this case to me. I'm like, this goes just with this series that I've thought about. So this works perfect. So that's why he is episode 1 of Vigilante Justice, because it happens a lot.
It does. And it's, as much as we report on true crime and we respect our justice system, I mean, we have to do what we do. We respect it. Sometimes they just get it wrong. And as we know that, our system is broken.
But,
and thank you, Desi.
Aww,
our system is very broken.
So sweet.
She's such a sweetheart. But anyway, I just wanted to start it off with, it does come with a warning. But, you got to ask yourself, do you believe in vigilante justice, particularly when it is, a crime against a child, up against a child predator?
And going back to the criminal justice system and our court system, sometimes they totally fail, right? Sometimes they just don't do enough. And sometimes our hands are tied and they can't. So when that happens, for me, that's where I think we need to make our lawmakers change the laws.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when they just don't. When they, like the one case you told me about today with the 8-year-old or 12-year-old girl, right. That to me, no, that I don't care that the guy was only 18 years old. He should have gotten more time than what he got.
Yeah, that was telling Brandy today that I ran up on a case while I was working on this one, and it was about an 18-year-old that kept 2 young girls hostage for 2 days. Him and his friend kept 2 girls hostage for 2 days. They both were 12 and under. And during those 2 days, the 12-year-old ended up pregnant. She had the baby. She raised the baby. And when the baby was 8 years old, the state decided that they wanted to go after the father of this child because she had received food stamps and Medicaid from the state of Michigan. So what makes it even worse is when they went after the father, he denied it. And of course, they made him do a parental test or DNA, and he ended up being the father. And he knew he was the father because in court, when he was charged with the crime, the DA decided not to push a sexual charge on him. And the explanation from the DA was he was so young at 18 that if he got sentenced for years and years in prison, he would be worse coming out of prison than he was going in. So they ended up getting him with battery on a minor, which meant he did not have to register as a sex offender. And he got a slap on the wrist. He spent like 30 days in jail. And I think it was 2 years probation. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was 2 years probation. So then, because they knocked the charges down and he pleaded out when it was a hard R case, you know what I'm saying? And it was kidnapping. Then when the state went after him for money to pay back the money that the state had been out, he decided, since I proved this is my kid, I want joint custody. So this baby was created during a violent act, and 8 years later, because the state wants him now to pay for the insurance, he decides to go for joint custody and is right now fighting it, and it looks like he's going to get it because they can't use the charges of what he really did to this girl because of the way they charged him. So when our justice system gets it wrong, they get it wrong, and it destroys lives. And I get a lot of states are underfunded, and they don't have enough staff to do their job, and hands are tied by sentencing guidelines. But lives are being ruined when jobs are not done correctly. And this is one this one that we're doing tonight, the Alaskan Avenger, he was given that name by the media. And to give an overall of what the case is about, is he dealt with a very harsh childhood where he was SA'd and brutally beat during his childhood by his adopted father from the age of 3 till he left home at 15. And the father was taken to court and he got 3 years suspended sentence. And later on, and I'll go through the details of the case, but later on, um, he ends up going and finding 3 pedophiles that's on the sexual registry, and he beats them up. They each have their own case, right? They're on the sexual registry for child abuse and SA against a child. All of them together so you've got the adopted father who abused Jason and his brother, and you've got 3 pedophiles that's on the registry that did horrible crimes against children. The stepfather got 3 years suspended. Each one of them got less than 3 years. But Jason, who went and beat 3 of them up, got 23 years and still sitting in prison today. So what does that tell our society? The crimes against children, it's not as big a deal. And another side of this case that I kind of went down the rabbit hole with is Jason is asking in prison if he can have therapy to deal with his childhood trauma. And any of us that went through childhood trauma knows that you can't just talk to a friend about it. Your friend's gonna, they're gonna support you, they're gonna love you, but you need therapy. You need tools to be able to handle those kind of emotions when you're by yourself and those thoughts come running back. You need therapy. So while he's in prison, he is begging the prison system for therapy to deal with his trauma. They won't give it to him. But guess what? Who does get therapy in that same prison? Block C, where the pedophiles are, and the women abusers and the domestic violence people, they're allowed to get anger management. They're allowed to get victim impact training and therapy. And when they do, and they complete those courses, the pedophiles can get years off of their sentence because they've done so much work. Jason ain't allowed. He's not allowed to have therapy. So, and they're afraid to let him out early because he might go out there and hurt another pedophile. But meanwhile, in the same prison, the pedophiles are getting out early because they completed courses. So the pedophiles can get out and hurt other children, but Jason can't get out because he might go hunting another pedophile. Broken. Straight across the board, a broken system. But anyway, so let me tell you this story. I'm going to start with his childhood. So to understand where he is today, you've got to understand how the system failed him. So Jason was born in June of 1975 in Anchorage, Alaska. He says he has no memory of his biological father. He does say that his biological parents were married when him and his brother Joel were born, and they were engaged in a church as missionaries. And he said that they, as a family, traveled to Indonesia and New Zealand, Taiwan, Singapore, but he doesn't really have memories of those times, just things he's been told growing up. He was 3 when they split, so he, what 3-year-old's going to remember that kind of stuff. But Jason has an older brother named Joel, who is 3 years older than Jason, and he is Jason's full biological brother. Now, Joel's going to play a big part in this, especially later on. But he plays a big part in Jason's life, during the years that they were children together. So when you hear his name, you'll hear his name throughout the story a lot. But Jason and Joel was raised by their mom after separating from the boy's father around 1978. Around 6 months later, after she divorced their father, she met a man at the church where the family attended and quickly married this man. Now, his name is Larry Lee Fulton. And from this point on, I'm just going to call him Larry because he does not have the I ain't giving him enough respect to call him by his real name. So he would, in 1979, Larry would adopt the boys and he would raise them as his own. From the outside looking in, most would think that this was just an average middle class family working to raise their boys and, to be proper men. Their adopted father worked for AT&T as an operator, and he usually worked the late afternoon shift, and mom would work opposite shifts, just so there was always a parent at home. And Jason describes his family as devoted Christians and that they would go to church 3 and 4 times a week. And Jason said in an interview that I watched that being raised in the midst of a congregation in this particular Christian church, that was all sorts of mind-bending mythology that was imposed on these kids' mind. And he talks about that more in depth later on, how it really messed up his mind.
Did they ever say which church it was? Like what denomination?
It was non-denominational, but Jason does say today that it was a cult. He didn't realize it at the time, but he says now what he knows and what he knows about the church and the teachings that was in the church, that it would, in his opinion, falls under cult.
Well, churches in general can typically fall underneath a cult if you read the true definitions of cults. So, which I've done a little bit on that. I need to do more on that because that's one of my passions. But I'd be curious to know what denomination they were falling under.
Right. I struggle with the whole God thing. I mean, you know that, and I struggle with it because of my mother used God against me as a kid.
A lot of abusers do.
It warps your mind.
Strong religions is it becomes very. I don't mean to say this to be offensive to anybody, so please forgive me if it comes across offensive, because there are amazing churches out there. I share one that's on here that I used to go to. I love listening to them, but there are a lot of them that people fall into the trap of it being abusive. They use their belief system to be degrading to the women, degrading to the children, and controlling, and just not safe. Just not safe.
Right. So the boys also attended a private Christian church, and they played on the soccer team for the church. The boys' mom and adopted father would welcome 2 children of their own into the world, a boy named Justin and a little girl named Gina. Jason speaks about his older brother in many interviews. I love hearing his interviews when he tells the stories about his brother. They're hilarious. But he talks about his older brother a lot in interviews, but he never says much about the other 2 siblings, the 2 half siblings, which they would have shared Jason and Joel's mom. But he says Joel was his world. He taught him everything an older brother should teach a little brother, and gave him hell while doing so. And then Jason giggles when he tells these stories. So you can still feel the admiration and the love that Jason has still today for his older brother. In an interview many years later, Jason said, "My older brother and I were quite close. Wherever he was, I wasn't far behind. This bond would last us for years until it was forever broken later in my adolescence by my pedophile adopted father." So as many true crime stories that Brandy and I talk about, all seems great from the outside looking in, but you lift the veil and a completely different story behind closed doors is unfolding. And my dad taught me, and I've passed it on to my kids, that you never know anyone. You never know anyone. You never know what someone is capable of doing behind closed doors. And so, okay, Brittany. Jason is quoted to say, and so you can imagine my horror and my confusion when the man that adopted me and vowed to love and care for me and my brother began using late night prayer sessions to SA me. Jason and his brother Joel would be subjected to severe physical and SA abuse under the disguise of late night prayer sessions, little rituals that Jason would later call it. Larry would beat the brothers with switches, eventually belts, and then he graduated to a custom 2x4 that he made in his wood shop that he was so proud of. And Joel describes it as he cut a handle in it so he could use both hands and drilled holes in it so he could get better force. Years later, Jason's brother Joel would testify in court against the adopted father and describe the brutality that both these boys suffered at Larry's hand. He describes how he forced them to roll over on their bunk beds, bare bottom, up against the wall, with nowhere to go, while this monster inflicted his physical punishment on the boys until they were so badly beaten. Sitting down for dinner when Mom got home was unbearable. Jason tells a story that Mom coming home and cooking dinner and getting upset with him because he wouldn't sit down to eat. And he said the truth was, I couldn't sit down. Joel testified that in his mind, it was always his job to go first, hoping that their adopted father would hopefully leave Jason alone, or it wouldn't be as bad on Jason if he went first. But that plan usually fell through. The church played a big part in the cruelty that these boys suffered. And I'm just knowing what these two boys went through, I'm sure there's thousands of children out there that was affected by the teachings of this church or churches like it. He talks about that the family attended a lot of church. He talks about it in a lot of interviews. So there's a lot to break down about this church that he now, as I said earlier, refers to as a cult. The church was about 1,000 to 1,200 members strong. It is still open and running today under the same name. And how everyone's seen the evidence of the beatings that him and his brother endured, and nobody said or did anything. They just either chose not to see it, or worse, they agreed. They agreed with the beatings. In an interview I watched of Jason after he was locked up, he explains how the church and its beliefs played such a huge dynamic role in his and Joel's life and in their home life. He says, and I quote, "My brother and I suffered on a daily basis. The best way that I could explain to you the home life is that, first of all, you've got to realize as a child, it was mentally exhausting to try to understand what was happening to us. To have young kids raised in a religious world where speaking in tongues, prophesying, and everyone you knew was allegedly in direct contact with this God they talked about. It is just a difficult thing when you're a child. It's extreme psychological abuse. What's a child supposed to think when everything they believe is happening to them comes from God himself? Because the people in their life communicates directly with God, and God tells them to do this according to them.
Right.
So clearly what they say to you, and more importantly, what they do to you, must be correct in God's eyes. That's what we were taught our whole lives. Many times a week, the boys' adopted father, for any infraction, would haul them out to the garage and beat them with the two-handed 2x4 that he made. He'd beat them like farm animals until they would fall on the floor. Jason and Joel lived with the confusion of being told by the church that your parents are under divine authority by God himself. Jason talks about memories when he was about 12 to 13 years old during a Wednesday night church service at this church, sitting there, and one of their sermons was about spanking and beating your children. Spare the rod.
Spoil the child. Yep.
And how to do it in such a manner that it leaves less bruising or evidence, but comes with the maximum amount of pain. They were preaching a service about how to beat your children below their buttocks, but above their knees, because that was the softest tissue and it hurts the most. Larry also created the spiritual rituals because God told him to, where he would come in to pray with the boys at night. And during that time is when the SA of him and his brother started. During those rituals, the boys would be touched inappropriately and it would escalate. Yet the boys are being taught that this is God's will because your parents are talking to God and God approves everything. This had to be difficult for these boys to even wrap their little minds around. But, I was thinking about, where's the mother?
So I'm gonna do a poll real quick in the chat, and I'm curious to see how many people, which we don't have any in here, and that's okay. have experienced abuse through religion. So I'm curious to see on that.
So anyway, I'm curious, and I'm sure you guys are too, is like, where's the boy's mom? Is she abused too? Is she helpless to protect her baby boys? Was she part of the abuse, or did she just ignore the signs like all the other adults did in these boys' life? Jason is asked a direct question about his mother in one of the interviews that I watched. That question was, were you close to your mom growing up? And he answered, growing up, I was close to my mom. Although in hindsight, I just wonder about the sickness and the twistedness of that particular relationship, because what sort of woman stays with a convicted child sex ayer? I got to be careful what words I use. That she watched and facilitated abusing her own children throughout their entire life. Jason admits that he felt close to his mom, but feels differently about it today. He is then asked if he feels that, maybe she was being abused herself. And the answer he gave was surprising. She says that he says, in fact, the dynamic in the household is that this adopted father had extreme anger, and he was just very much an angry man that reacted to everything with yelling and violence. But she was in control of the household. She was very passive aggressive. Jason describes her as a very large woman in control. The other thing that complicates the dynamic is that you have to factor in the whole association with whatever version of deep Christianity the family was involved in. There were all kinds of spiritual hierarchies in the church that took place, and according to Jason, she was certainly the queen of the house. Jason remembers one time that they just couldn't take it anymore, and neither one of the boys had the courage to say anything to the adopted father themselves. So Jason said he finally told Joel, I'm going to tell mom. I'm going to tell mom what he's doing to us. Themselves. So Jason said,
Sorry.
Says, I'm going to tell mom. I'm going to tell mom exactly what he's doing to us. And he did. She absolutely didn't believe a word of what Jason said. She made Jason sit on the kitchen stool for hours until Larry come home from work. And then she made Jason repeat to Larry exactly what he had told her earlier. Jason says she made me recite it word by word about the abuse that he had inflicted on him and his brother while she stood there with her arms crossed. Larry was just very dismissive about it and mumbled something that you barely could understand. And something about being curious. He just wanted to make sure the boys were maturing and developing correctly.
And that was
Joel and Jason's mom, huh?
That's his excuse for the abuse?
Yep, that was it. And
Was
the boy's
there
mom accepted that explanation, and that was the end of the
was
conversation.
there did he treat his biological children the
There
same way?
is no reports of all of him ever doing anything to the biological children of his own.
So
that
Jason
they have.
never witnessed anything.
Nowhere that I could find.
Hmm.
Nowhere that I could find. The only thing I could find out about Justin and Jenna was that when the boys ended up leaving home around 15 and 16, that they never had any more contact with those siblings from that point on. So I guess they took mom and dad's side. The level of abuse would continue to escalate after that conversation. There's no reports of Larry abusing his two biological children. As the abuse against Jason and Joel escalated, Joel couldn't take it anymore. He's now 16 and he's getting older, and being 16 brought opportunities. Jason at the time would have only been 13. But Joel decided to run away. Knowing how much Joel loved Jason and felt like his protector, I'm sure it was heart-wrenching for him to leave his baby brother. But one night, as planned by Joel, as the family was asleep, he climbed out the window. He had found himself a little girlfriend who was outside the reach of the church. In every interview that Jason talks about this, he says the reach of the church. So Joe confided in this young lady, and it freaked her out. And so she wanted to run away with him, she was going to protect him. So they did. They ran away. Joel stole his mom's car and he picked up the little girlfriend, and eventually the police officers popped them because he got the car stuck in the snow because he didn't have a clue how to drive. Cops showed up, and Joel was terrified that he was going to be sent back to Larry, so he spilled the beans to the cops and told the cops everything. He told them how their adopted father was SAing and physically abusing them, and how his little brother was still there having to deal with it, and that it had been going on for years. The police took the allegations very serious, along with Joel's body was covered in bruises, and he was beat. He had a bloody lip, and they started the investigation into the abuse. When it was time to testify and go to court, they also threw Jason on the stand to testify about what Larry had done to them. But when it came time for Jason to speak about the abuse, he never made it clear how bad the abuse really was. What child would? I mean, at that age, they're terrified. Most abused children are groomed to cover up the abusive parents' behavior, or they flat out lie about it. Jason was just 13 at the time and absolutely terrified of Larry, so he played the abuse down. He was scared nothing that he would do it was going to help, and that he would just be left with this monster and things would just get worse. I can't even imagine his fear. Also, opening up to a stranger about what was going on at those late night prayer sessions would be embarrassing and humiliating and very difficult for a young boy of just 13 years of age. To make things worse for the boys, the church provided Larry with a high dollar attorney. And a whole bunch of the high ranking members of the church showed up to testify on his behalf. In the end of all of it, the litigation, he was given 3 years in prison, suspended, 0 jail time to serve, and 3 years probation. Larry was returned right back home to the boys with a slap on the wrist, with his monstrous ways and his monstrous behavior with both the boys in tow from the courtroom that day. The family left together. Whereas you can guess it, he continued to abuse Jason and Joel. Things were really hard on Joel at this point because everyone was really upset with him. The people in the church was very upset with him. His other younger siblings was upset, and his mom wasn't talking to him. He had revealed the family secret to the authorities. I mean, they had kept up the appearances for a long time, so that they was all upset with him. So Larry packs up his wife and his 4 children. They sell the family home, and they moved to Wasilla, Alaska, and they kept a low profile. This is when they even pulled Joel and Jason out of public schools that they had attended and would start homeschooling them. Yeah, it's always not always a red flag, but in this situation, when you're going to be pulled out of school where there's no other adult outside of church and home that's going to see you, it just screams red flag to me. Jason recalls how Larry kept him and Joel almost in complete isolation. No more soccer, no more nothing. So in reality, all the court and the judge did was allow Larry to get better at hiding his abusive behavior. And on a side note, the Alaskan authorities never did one home check. Child Protective Services never called the family. They did absolutely nothing after Larry walked out of court that day with his family by his side. There was never any follow-up, no classes for Larry, no therapy for the boys. They were completely forgotten and served up on a silver platter for their adoptive father to do whatever he pleased to them and when. Jason has a plan, though. Around 14, after Joel had finally left, because Joel then would have been 17. So Joel had left home, and Jason's about 14. He decides that he's got to get out too. He's got to get out just as quick as he can. So he started working. According to Jason, he began working as early as he could. Couldn't have a paper route till he was 14. So as soon as he turned 14, he started delivering newspapers. He started shoveling snow. He worked at a grocery store and did all kinds of seasonal work which would take him out of his abusive home for many months at a time. Because he was homeschooled, he said that he would do his whole year in a couple of months, and it would leave the rest of the 9 to 10 months for him to be outside of the house working where anyone would give him a job. During these years, he says he developed his work ethic and was taught how to behave like a real man through his interactions with the working men in the wilds of Alaska. And he says he was very grateful because it kept him out of the home, and each and every week that he could be out of that home was a blessing. Jason was saving every dime he could to get the hell out of there. He got a job at the grocery store, and he met a little girl there, and she became his first girlfriend. Jason started sneaking out of the house at night to be with the young lady, and eventually, after a period of time, he had confided in her everything that was going on in Jason's life, and she was absolutely horrified. Jason says she told him, "I'm going to smuggle you out of the house." But in the planning process of leaving home, Jason's parents found out about him sneaking out previously with this young lady. So one night after Jason had snuck out, his parents had put all of his belongings on the front porch in garbage bags and left out his ID and his social security card and his birth certificate. They refused to give him any kind of identifying papers, but told him, "You're done. You're out of here. You're not welcome here anymore." So Jason, with the young lady by his side, left home for good at the age of 15 with no ID in hand. This was back in the days where you could still buy a plane ticket and you didn't have to have any kind of picture ID or anything. You just buy a plane ticket and, good old days. Jason somehow had gotten a hold of Joel and found out that Joel was in Spokane, Washington, and Jason bought him and his girlfriend a plane ticket, and they flew to Spokane, Washington. Jason soon turned 16, and a few days later, he got a job as a telemarketer. Jason tells the story where when payday finally come around, he was so proud of himself. He had a full week's payday, and he was ready for his check. And payday got there, and the boss says, "Man, I want to give you your check, but without ID, I can't give it to you." So not only did he not get his check, but he lost his job. He couldn't even request a birth certificate without parents' authorization. So Jason says he's not justifying his criminal behavior, but being very hungry and watching your girlfriend go hungry and not being able to provide a paycheck will lead you down some dark paths. He recalls driving down the road on an old 400 motorcycle that he had pieced together when they first got to Spokane, and said that he knew that he was starving. Little girl was starving. His little girlfriend was starving, and they hadn't eaten in days. And he's thinking to himself, "I've got to find a job. I got to find somewhere where I can get my hands on some money." And he looks over his shoulder, and there's a health club. Jason decided and planned out this plan that he would wait for people to go in there to work out, and they would always leave their wallets in the lockers. And he'd pull his motorcycle to the back, and he'd go in and ask the desk clerk, "Hey, I think I want to work out. Can I have a free day just to check it out to see if I like it?" So most of the time they would say, "Sure, go ahead. Locker rooms are in the back. Go back there and change and help yourself to a day of working out. See if you like it." Jason would go to the back in the locker rooms, and he would start going through all the lockers till he found ones that were unlocked. And every once in a while, he'd hit the jackpot. Jason recalls that that was the beginning of a long trail of him learning to be a thief and a liar. Jason was also registered for forgery because he found checks in those lockers too. And writing checks back in that, back during this time wasn't as hard as it was now.
Yeah, they didn't have the system that ran them automatically. You just had to check.
Right, just write it. Yeah.
Yep.
Most of them didn't even ask for ID back then. Just you got to check, you write it. So eventually, as you can guess, he gets caught. Jason recalls being hauled into the detective's office in Spokane, Washington, having been arrested as a juvenile, and the guy sits the case file on the counter between him and the detective. Jason says he's looking at it, and it's like 10 inches thick. And the detective folds his arms, leans back in the chair, and says, "Man, I thought we were dealing with a white-collar crime ring in town, and it's been all you the whole time." The detective tells him he's got 68 cases that he probably can stick to him. And Jason crumbles. He falls apart. It was me. I did it. I did it. I did all of it. So, and he explains to the detective, I can't get a real job. My parents kept my ID and we were hungry. Jason was just 16 at the time. So they sent him to juvenile in Spokane, Washington. He pleaded guilty to 2 felons while everything else was dropped. Jason was devastated because he was going to be separated from his girlfriend for 9 months because they put him in juvenile for 9 months. Here's where we go to justice is not fair. Remember what his stepdad did and got a slap on the wrist and not a day in jail. Jason's running around.
Wondering
Yes,
why they
he's
would go after their parents to get, why did you kick your son out? And that just
yep,
shocked me. I mean,
yep. So, but this is how Jason starts looking at the justice system as stepdad got nothing and he's just trying to eat because he can't get a job and he doesn't prove he's got a good work ethic. He worked all that time while he was still in Alaska doing hard jobs. Some of those jobs he did, I didn't list them all, but some of them he did was he would go out on these game hunts and he was the one that would tote the animals back while the rich people shot the animals. He was toting these heavy animals back. So there was a lot of hard work he did. So, it wasn't that he didn't want a job, but he was sentenced to 9 months. And luckily, Jason was not sent back home to Larry when he was released. But he still didn't have many options and he continued to steal to survive. And he desperately wanted a legitimate job. But despite the fact that he did manage to get some jobs, which were mostly in construction, he either couldn't hold them down or they weren't permanent. Or he was very much underpaid because he didn't have an ID. Jason had no choice but to turn back to crime, and in between jobs, he would use some of that money to start buying weed. Jason said that it helped numb the pain from the memories of his childhood, and it made his current situation a little bit easier to tolerate. When Jason turned 18, he was picked up by the police again for driving without a driver's license. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail for driving without a driver's license and missing a court date. So again, stepdad spent no time in jail. He didn't have a license, had no way to get to court, and he's sentenced to 30 days behind bars. This is one of those core things to remember that he got 9 months in juvie for petty theft and 30 days in adult for driving without a license. And Larry got no time at all for years and years of abuse. He would get caught driving 8 more times, and each time he would be caught by the authorities would increase his jail time. He said he could never get enough money to get his fines paid, or to get a decent car to get back and forth to court, or to even get his driver's license, because by that time he had so many tickets on his driver's license that he couldn't get them. It was a trap. It's a trap that a lot of people still fall into today. They can't afford to get their license because they can't afford to pay all the fines to get them. Jason learned to live day by day. He fell into a severe depression and even considered suicide at one point in time because he couldn't think of any other way to get out. And he had the haunting memories of his childhood. So when all seemed dark and he just didn't want to continue, he decided to give it one more go back home to Alaska to start over.
hey, Rapid.
So his brother was in Spokane, but his brother had his own legal issues. So there wasn't much support from the brother in Spokane. They did live together for a short time, but the brother had a girlfriend that didn't like Jason and didn't like Jason's girlfriend. So them all living together didn't last long. So they pretty much, both boys were on their own, just trying to survive. So Jason unfortunately ended up turning to crime again after he gets back to Alaska. He gets caught stealing credit cards. So he went from petty cash to checks, now to credit cards. He was caught again and he served his longest sentence yet. He served 6 years, 6 years behind bars in prison. When he was released, it didn't take him long to break the rules of his parole. I think it was like 33 days. And he was sent back to jail again for the another remainder of the 3 years. Jason didn't seem to be able to break the cycle. The prison system did not help him to reform at all. No therapy, no help. With so many thoughts running through Jason's mind and the scars that were left so deep, on his inner child. And he needed therapy. He needed intense therapy, but the prisons are just not going to provide that. He did actually get out that last time and live a more stable life. He was kind of crime free, except he sold some weed on the side. But besides that, he tried to do live a cleaner life. He was briefly married, and he actually adopted his wife's very young child. And I there couldn't find much about that. He talks about he did have a child with her. Um, doesn't talk much about his children, just that he loves them dearly. But I don't know if it's just something he's just choosing to keep private, or if he's lost contact. I don't know. But when the marriage started unraveling and he went back to smoking weed, he started smoking meth. This would be the lowest point in Jason's life, and he talks about it a lot in a lot of interviews. And he started thinking about all the horrible things that he had been through and how he had dealt with, just was dealt a bad hand from day one. He thought to himself, my life would be better, would not be like this if that abusive piece of shit would have destroyed my life as a child and got away with it. So he just was living under the cloud of this asshole got away with this, and I am where I am today because of him. Jason was watching TV one evening, and all over the news was a bunch of reports of kids in the area that were being SA'd and adults abusing their positions of authority and were taking advantage of the children in his home state. Jason did some research about Alaska and found out how it compared to other states in the U.S. and found out that Alaska's got a huge problem. One of their problems is funding and employees to do the job that needs to be done. But kids were falling through the cracks.
It's a very sparse state,
Yeah.
because it's mostly frozen wilderness, basically. So the areas that are civilized, there's just not a lot of people there. So funding is a huge issue.
Right. So the TV show that he watched, or the news that he watched that night, it was just kind of the right storm because he's dealing with his own demons, and it was just what was on the news that night. So Jason knew all too well what these kids were going through because his whole life, he'd struggled to mentally come to terms with what had happened to him and to mentally come to terms that nobody was ever going to pay for what happened to him. Jason knew that these perpetrators were going to get a slap on the wrist, while the kids that they abused was going to live a lifetime, their whole entire life suffering, as Jason did. He decided to do something about it. So in 2016, Jason's untreated childhood trauma reached a boiling point. He began to read through the sex offender registry of Alaska, and he decided to create his own brand of justice. Jason said that while he was writing down the names and the addresses, the same thoughts kept going through his head. He kept remembering how he once was young, and he couldn't do anything to stop the abuse then because nobody stepped in on his behalf to protect him and his brother, to keep them safe or to punish his abusers. So if the authorities weren't going to protect the children in Alaska and punish the abusers, Jason was going to do it himself. So the Alaskan Avenger is born. Gripping a notebook filled with names and addresses of sex offenders he found on the public registry, Jason targeted the home of Charles Abbey. You got his picture?
Yeah, let me find him. It did not put names on any of them.
Did I not? I did. I thought I did in the email.
It may have, but when I saved them, it did not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I tagged each one of them. He's the older of the three.
Is it ALBET?
Yes.
Okay.
ALBEE. He's the one with, I think the background's blue.
Yeah, ALBET is what it says, but either way, that's fine.
Yep, that's him. Hang on, I was trying to resend it to you.
No, I have them up. I have the
Okay.
pictures. I think it was 3 that you sent me.
Okay, so he knocks on Albie's door first. This will be his first victim on June the 24th, 2016 at 9:30 in the morning. He pushed the then 68-year-old inside and ordered him to go to his bedroom and sit on his bed. Jason went in without a mask, and he did it in the morning when the sun was up. And he didn't sneak in. He knocked on their front door. Jason slapped Albie across the face a couple of times and berated him, told him that he had found his address on the sexual offenders list, and he knew what Albie had done. Jason continued to berate him about his past sexual offenses for a while, and after that, after beating him up a little bit, roughing him up, he left the scene. Charles called the police and told them what Jason had done and said that Jason had showed him a list of names to prove that this was not a one-time and done. Now to get to, I'm going to skip a little bit.
Thank you, Jade.
Thanks, Jay. To get to what Mr. Albie here has done.
I was fixing to ask that question. What is his list of crimes?
He's a real winner. He hard-R'd his own daughter and actually fathered a little girl with that same daughter.
Oh my God.
When Jason researched and checked out this man before targeting him, he found out that Charles was actually babysitting the child that he had fathered.
Oh my God.
With his daughter, and was not even supposed to be in contact with or near the child because his daughter was so young when she had given birth to his child, his own grandchild. Her mother had gotten custody of the baby, and the mother and Albie were not married, but the mother had gotten custody of the baby and had gotten older and needed a babysitter, and Charles stepped in to offer his services.
He did. Was the daughter a minor when he R'd her?
It just says she was young. It doesn't give her age. It just said she was young. He was sentenced to 3 years. He was released after 21. The last time that he was checked with the registry was July the 31st of 2023.
He didn't even serve 2 years of a 3-year sentence.
No.
Wow.
No. He served 21 months of the 3-year sentence. And the last time that the sexual registry had been, checked to make sure he is where he's supposed to be was July the 31st of 2023. And Jason, when he did his research, had to go to 2 different houses to locate him because the address on the sexual registry was actually not the address that Albie was living in. Okay, so now we're going to go up to the second one. 2 days later, at 4 a.m. in the morning, Jason used the same method to enter Barbosa's house. He's the young one. If you want to go ahead and get that one up. And although this time Jason had 2 women with him, because Jason had been at some friend's house and said, hey, I'm going to beat up some pedos. Y'all want to go? And the boys were like, nah, we don't want to go. The girl said, well, I know someone because of what he had done to me. And he was charged for what he did to me, but not charged well enough. So Jason says, well, who is he? And the girls say who it is. So Jason says he looked it up first and made sure that he was who the girls claimed. and that he was on the registry, and he was 25 at the time. So Jason shows up at his house 2 days later after the first guy. Early in the morning, one of the girls knocked on the door this time, which was what she says in an interview. It was kind of her job. And so she knocks on the door, and this guy answers the door, sees her, standing there, and opens the door to her. Jason and the two girls go in. Jason threatens him, tells him that I've got a hammer. You're going to sit down. Jason punches him in the face a little bit. He threatens to bash his head in. He tells the girls, take everything you want. And he tells Barbosa, we're here to collect. And one of the women is going around collecting things that she wants. The other young girl films the video of Jason slapping Barbosa around a little bit. That video that Jason didn't know that she was doing will eventually come back to haunt them. So to get to his charges, Barbosa, he is 33 now. He was sentenced to 18 months and only served 6. He was convicted of child porn. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. He was convicted of that, and one of the young girls that was there in the house that night had been sexually active with him, and he had drugged her and took pictures. And she was underage. So some of the pictures that was in his computer was of her.
Wow.
And she helped Jason. So now number 3. Let me find it. I keep going back and forth. All right. The third time.
And this is just how my email pulls them up, guys. Sorry, it's not a better picture.
Now this guy, you're going to love this guy. This is the third one that he went after. And this one's a big crybaby. Jason did escalate his violence with this guy. And Jason says in an interview that, the one thing he didn't look at when he was looking these guys up on the sexual registry was their size. And, just could he handle it? And Jason says he was kind of a scrawny guy at the time. He was tall, but he's kind of he calls himself kind of the hippie of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But he knocks again at the door, and nobody opens the door. And in an interview, this guy talks about that he thought he heard somebody breaking into his house, but he wasn't sure. This was going to be about 1 o'clock in the morning. So Jason ends up forcing himself into the door, and he told the man to go lay on the bed, and he refuses. Jason told him to get on his knees, and the man refused. And at that time, Jason hit him in the head 6 times with a hammer.
Oh.
As he's coming in the house, though, and he forces himself in the house, this guy had a couple living with him in a spare bedroom. So as he's pushing himself into the house, and the Dermarest guy is saying, get out, who are you? The couple is standing at the bedroom door, kind of like in fear. Somebody just broke into our house. He yells at the couple and says, get out of here. This ain't about you. So they take off out the door. As they take off out the door, Jason suspects that they are the ones that called the cops. But as he's leaving this house, he leaves Dermarest. He leaves him with a fractured skull, broken jaw, and unconscious. Jason thought he might have killed him. He didn't mean to, but they thought possibly he had killed him. Jason was by himself on this adventure. Nobody was with him. He stole an assortment of items, including a laptop, and he fled. Dermis, Dermarest, waking up in his own blood as cops were coming in, gave a long explanation of what had happened to him. And they find Jason sitting in his Honda Civics, not far from the man's house, still with a bloody hammer, the stolen goods, and a notebook containing the names of the 3 people he had assaulted and about 41 more names of people that he had planned to go after next. So Jason's now 42 when he's arrested on the spot, and he's later charged with 18 counts of assault, battery, burglary, and theft. He initially pleaded not guilty, but he opted to make a deal with the prosecution instead. Jason tells a story that when he was arrested, that the cops were giving him a high five and was proud of him, but they still had a job to do.
Here's one picture of.
Yeah, that's the one that was the big crybaby. Because this guy goes on to do TV interviews and talks about how Jason.
You can see it up here on the top of his head. I mean, he's still bloody and bruised and damaged up on the top of his head from this.
Yeah, he goes and does interviews with the news stations in the area, saying that he thinks laws should be changed to protect people that's on the registry, that their address should not be public, their names, that only, like their parole or probation officers should have their information, that it should not be public because this is the stuff that happens and they're not protected. Now there were the children that they touched.
Yeah, your victims weren't protected either, asshole.
Right. But anyway, Jason is facing 18 charges. This led to.
I had to laugh at his wounds. Sorry, but that's all the time he gets.
This led to his sentence in 2018 of 23 years in prison. So now think about this. Adopted dad got 3, suspended. The first guy got 3, only served 21 months. Second guy got, 18 months, and he only served 6 months. This guy, the Dermarest guy, he was sentenced to 36 months, so 3 years, and he only served 28 months. And a good thing that Rapid's going to love about this is he now lives right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. He no longer lives in Alaska. And he is accused of hard R-ing a 10-month-old child.
Jesus Christ.
And he served 28 months in prison and now lives.
Since the attack by Jason, he has R-ed a 10-month-old child.
Yes. And he served 28 months in prison for it and six years. He got sentenced to 36 months, served 28 months, and still had probation for a few months after his 28. I guess probably to take up to the 36 months. Probably on probation until 36 months. The last time that the sexual registry checked on him was September the 18th of this year, where they updated his picture, which is the picture that you have. So if you add up the adopted father's time, the 3 years, all 3 of these guys' time does not equal up to the 23 years that Jason got.
See, for beating them. I wouldn't have been able to give him that amount of time.
Yep. 23 years. So Jason tried to make a deal with the DA and tell the DA that, I tell you what, I'll plead guilty if you will only sentence me to the time that each one of them was sentenced to, and throw my adopted dad in there too, and I'll serve those 12 years and we'll call it even. Nope, they gave him double that. So he got 23 years in prison. He does have 5 years suspended and another 5 years on probation, but that come from an appeal where he had put in that they didn't take in consideration his PTSD from his childhood. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people working on Jason's behalf right now. And during his last Um, parole hearing, they did shave off 5 years. So he will get out in 2028. And they ended up dropping 12 of the charges when it actually he accepted the plea deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge had a lenience to be able to have given him, anywhere from the 12 years to the 23. And the judge had made a statement in court that, his state, there will not be no vigilante justice, and gave him the max that he could give him.
What I would like to see him do when he gets out, because that's still young enough to make a difference. I would love to see him become an advocate
Oh,
and
he is. He
and
is.
turn the anger into his own into something good and make it his own therapy without taking the anger out physically.
Right. And I'm going to get to that because he's got a whole plan. He's real good friends with JD. So I got a good update from him about what's going on now. Jason, however, didn't break down crying when he got his sentence. Instead, he smiled. And in that iconic picture now of Jason, you can see that he's smiling at his brother Joel, and there's no words being said. They weren't allowed to speak. And the brothers just smiled at each other, and they both shared that silent moment of triumph. The picture itself speaks 1,000 words, and understanding the backstory between these two brothers, you'd understand the smile that they shared between them. The sad part about that picture that I didn't know for the longest time is these boys, lived this terrible childhood together. And then they kind of went their separate ways. I mean, they tried a little bit in Washington, but they ended up basically both going separate ways and living. Um, Jason went the criminal way, where Joel ended up finding good people to help him along the way. He ended up getting the counseling he needed, and he completely changed his life around. And he did a lot of intense therapy. Joel did. So when he found out that Jason had been charged with this crime, and I'm sure it was in all the papers for Joel to find out, Joel contacted his attorneys, Jason's attorneys, and said that he hadn't talked to his brother in many, many, many years, but that he wants to testify on his behalf of what his childhood was like. In Jason's mind, he thought that, okay, I've lost the rest of my life, but at least I get my brother back.
Right.
So after the sentencing, and you see this picture, they do meet one time where Jason is ecstatic to see his brother, and the brothers hug, and Jason says, he just didn't want to let go of him. And Joe tells him, he says, I love you and I wish you the best, but just looking at you opens up all those wounds again. And I've been through so much therapy, and I've changed my life, and I'm in a good place in my life. And I wish you well, brother, and I love you, but I can't be a part of your life. So to me, that was just heart wrenching because, you want Jason's just gotten a bad hand of everything. And the one good thing that come of this, he thought was going to get his brother back, who he absolutely adored. Growing up, that was his big brother. And he didn't get that back either. So Jason's attorney said during the trial that Jason shouldn't even be punished because he's been punished his whole life. All of the crimes stemmed up from him being an abuse victim, and needing to escape living in poverty, and with nothing and no one to support him. And he used drugs to help him cope with the mental issues that he had developed from a traumatic childhood. When asked why he did what he did, Jason responded with his words of wisdom. He says, I want my story to serve as a deterrent. My choices led me to where I'm currently sitting, looking at 20 more years in prison. I thought back to my experiences as a child. I took matters into my own hands, and I assaulted 3 pedos. If you have already lost your youth, like me, due to being a child abuse victim, don't throw the rest of your present and your future away by committing the acts of violence. Jason said, I began my life sentence many, many years ago. It was handed to me by an arrogant, hateful, poor substitute for a father, and I now face losing the rest of my life due to the decision to lash out at people like him. To all of you who have suffered like I have, love yourself and love those around you. There truly is a way forward without turning to crime and violence. Jason appealed his sentence on the grounds that his PTSD should be considered as a mitigating factor in the case. But he lost that bid in October 2020. Despite his hero status among some Alaskans, the judge ruled being a vigilante will not be accepted in our society. His final victim, Wesley, has publicly expressed his relief that Jason will be behind bars for many years, adding that he would prefer if Jason wasn't walking around free while he's still alive. But I wonder if the victims, feel the same way. Now 70 years old, he struggles to form coherent, can't say the word, coherent sentences.
Oh, coherent. Okay.
And he also lost his job in the wake of the brain injury that he sustained. And he's now drawing disability SSI because, he no longer can work. Of course, now he's 70 years old, so he'd get it anyway. But his last words during an interview was, he wanted to ruin my life. And I guess he got what he wanted. So, and some side notes on what's happened to Jason since, and I got this from JD, was Jason got a big, thick package envelope in prison couple of years after he was there. And he opened it up, and inside the envelope was another envelope that he could tell has a lot of pictures in it. And then there was an envelope that said, that you could tell was a letter. On the envelope that was pictures says, open me up last. Well, Jason being a dude and knowing it was pictures, and girls like to write guys in prison, he opens up the pictures first. And he says, oh, cute chick. She's adorable. And yeah, I'm going to write her. Then he opens up the letter. And the letter was from his biological sister, who his father had 3 years after leaving him and his brother.
Oh,
So
wow.
during all of this mess, he had a little sister out there who found him by doing Ancestry.com, and had been looking for him and Joel for a long time. And she reached out to Joel too. Joel did not have any contact with her, but her and Jason have become best friends. And there's so many funny little stories around there. She's always going to visit him. She fights hard for him. There is a free Jason Vukovich TikTok. There's a couple of YouTube channels up there. JD has been running a and some of y'all might know who JD is. He has the prison channel on YouTube, and he helps prisoners who have committed crimes. Um, no crimes against a child, no crimes against a woman, but
What's the
other
name of the channel? JD
huh?
Vance. Is it JD Vance?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna find it.
Um, he helps prisoners be able to find work and support, brotherhood, community, and a place to live. And he also is helping, trying to get Jason's sentence even lowered, even more, because Jason wants to do so much changing in the system itself. He wants to fight with, he wants to fight on the Capitol,
What is the name
and he
of his
wants to
channel again? Because that is not it.
hang on. He wants to change laws, and he wants these prisoners to get the therapy that they need, and the funding for these prisons, and the oversight of these prisons, that money is being put in, in the right place to get prisoners the help to come out and be able to be reformed rather, and be better and more able to carry a job and fit back into society than they do right now. So it's the world would be at a better place if Jason was out of prison and he was doing what his calling is, and it's just to change the laws. And he's got so much spirit in him. He's got a new, zest for life. He's got his little baby sister with him now. He's got the brotherhood of the JD gang over there. That's very much the support of everything that he's going to do going forward. There was a ruling. I haven't verified whether or not it's actually true, but there is a couple of reports going around that he recently got approved to serve out the rest of, he's got 4 more years to serve those 4 years at home confinement with GPS. But I haven't gotten that from anyone to know for sure if that's true. So if we find that out, we'll do an update. I do know that his baby sister did she did a GoFundMe for him too, but she also did a wish list, an Amazon wish list, because he is going to be getting out soon, and she's all he has as far as family. And within 2 days, the whole wish list was bought. So he's got a lot of support when he gets out. You're fine, Dragon.
Is it this channel? I was trying to share it so I could show it, but I don't know what channel you're talking about. Is it this guy?
JD? Yeah. Yeah, he's got a lot of
It's this channel?
Yeah. JD.
Okay, I keep asking you, you're not answering. I'm like, I don't know which channel it is.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. I told you a while ago when I first started on, I could barely hear you.
Let's see.
But yeah, keep up with his channel. He gives a lot of updates about Jason. So and he's just funny too. JD's funny.
This is a copy. This is a link to his channel, guys. Y'all can go over and give him a sub up. LM Dragon, I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're doing good.
But that's about all I've got on Jason right now. When we get updates, we'll let you guys know. Like I said, this case took me through down several rabbit holes that I want to go back and visit.
Yeah, they're definitely. I'm looking at his channel, going, "Oh, look, check that out." He's got some interesting stuff on his channel.
He's a hoot too. He's very polite. I've talked to him a couple of times, and he's been very, very, very nice to me. He's very nice to everyone that goes on his channel and talks to him.
And he's got a bunch on the Wade Wilson, which is the one a few of them have asked me to cover. Oh, he's actually got one. Can sex offenders be rehabilitated?
He's a big fighter for the pedo guys.
For them or against them?
Against them. He's even got merch. He calls them chumbos. Yeah. Hey, Broken Justice.
Hey, Broken Justice. He's got some interesting stuff on his channel.
Yeah, he does.
Hi, something to talk about. Oh, that is Broken Justice. Sorry.
So that's Broken.
I was thinking somebody else when you said Broken. I don't know. I was looking over on the other thing. How are you doing, honey? I haven't, girl, I feel you, LM Dragon. I'm staying busy. The only thing I've been watching on YouTube, guys, has been the Carly Gregg trial. I'm just about done with it. I think I'm going to cover it next week. You should do one on the Mendez brothers. They are big right now on TikTok and net. Yes, I'm fixing to watch the new show on Netflix. You know, the guy that did the one on Jeffrey Dahmer just did one on the Mendez brothers. Well,
They are in the news a lot right now. Is something happening in their case?
they're
I know
still,
Kim Kardashian got involved with them.
yeah, they're still fighting. And I am a huge, I love the Mendez brothers. I love their story. I think that had that case happened now, I think things would have been looked at a little bit differently. I think there was huge injustice with that case. I think they should have a chance to get out. I just do. And so but there's some negative things from them about no, it's not a documentary. It's just a series. I think there's 9 episodes, that they don't like how he portrayed, I think, Lyle. So I'm gonna watch it. I got to finish this trial and then I'm gonna watch it. And since Dave's gone, I can watch those things. Because he's here. I can't watch the good things. I have to watch the stupid movies like we watched yesterday with Charles Bronson that I don't know what was going on. And Charles is like old now. It's not like one of the young ones where he's a cop and he's doing the thing. He was like a gardener. It was weird. I'm like, what the hell are we watching? I don't know. The acting's really bad. You think? Like, why are we still watching it? It's the story of my life when he's
Dragging the Carly Gregg case is driving me nuts. It's
yes, Elm
that's
Dragon.
another one I think they got wrong.
I know you'll give me a hard time because the fancyisms, but Fancy said, Brandy, you need to look at this case, and I'm like, I don't want to look at the case. I don't have enough time right now. And I looked at the case, and then I text her and said, "Fuck you, fuck you for making me look at this case," because now I'm down the rabbit hole. Now I am way, way down the rabbit hole, and I'm gonna do it. We're going there. I'm watching the Carly Gregg. It just finished. It finished like last week. 15-year-old girl that murdered her mother and attempted to murder her stepfather.
I think she hit the stepfather right where she was supposed to, where he told her to hit him.
Mm-hmm. I think he held the gun in the spot.
Mm-hmm.
But we ain't gonna get there yet because we're gonna go all there because I'm laughing because everybody, there's a whole group of people that are comparing her story to Gypsy, and I'm like, how can this even be anything like Gypsy? So I start watching it. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? She doesn't mention Gypsy. She's not medically, there's no medical abuse, there's no malingering, there's no, the parents were doing everything right. They were getting her counseling, they were a loving home, all the things. They did all the things right.
There is no comparison.
And there's no comparison. I'm like, what the hell? Stop it. Stop. Stop. So, but I did fall down a whole nother rabbit hole with it that I'm like, oh my God. So I'm going to compare it to some older cases. I've got some older cases that popped up in my head as soon as I started watching it. And it may be a several part. I don't know. Because I don't want to spend 6 hours on live with it, but we are definitely going there. I think we could start it next week because I think there's enough to just get started and talk about the tids and bits of it, both cars. What does that mean, Rapid? Chase just confused me.
Yeah, that got me too. My next baby case is going to be my other son. When I claim as my son, Stephen, this one was for Chase. He requested this one, and Stephen requested the Shonda
Vander Ark
case. So
we couldn't get the case the other day. We were trying to get the name, and we're like Vanderbilt, Vandersloot. We had all the Vanders, and I get off the phone in the middle of the night, and I went Vander Ark.
Yeah, that one.
So we are going to that one's going to be a little bit.
Well, that's the only thing, Chase, that is the same about the two cases, but that there's no
connection past that. None.
Yeah.
Zero. She didn't do it because of Gypsy. She didn't look up to Gypsy. She didn't. It just. The Gypsy obsession, guys, is weird.
We try our best to stay so far away from it. And when these people can take these cases and still say they did it because of Gypsy, it's just the hate talking. And
It's
I don't even know if we do justice by fighting them and saying there's no way it compares, or just ignoring that.
what I'm going to do is compare it to what it does compare to, and then they can sit over there in their corner and argue that it does.
Right.
I'm going to show where I find where it
My link.
compare.
Oh, Brand, you'll have to put my link up. I don't even know how to put my link up in StreamYard.
Which link? Your YouTube link or your TikTok link?
YouTube.
Give me just a second. I got to go back over to it. Oh, that ain't it. What the hell? Hold on. I guess I got out of YouTube and was on. Oh yeah, I hit it in the main search bar, not the YouTube search bar.
I think I can do it. Well, it won't be on StreamYard though.
You might be able to, because I think StreamYard had your channel on there. Let me look. Because I thought that was weird today. I was like, what? Yeah. Your channel's on there. Select destinations.
You put it on there the day that you left and left me streaming something for you.
I'll have to double check it and see if it connected.
Well, you got it cut up. You got it put up, so.
And I'll have to give her a rundown on how to use StreamYard.
Yeah, she's gonna have to teach me. She's gonna have to teach me. But that's all I've got.
Oh, Sunday. We haven't decided a time yet, I don't think. But Sunday, guys, make sure you'll come back. We're doing a birthday bash for Kendall for her birthday. And we're going to watch, I think we talked about pulling up Stupid Criminals and watching Funny Animals and Stupid Criminals and whatever else pops in our head that we put in the search bar.
I wanted to play the game where we do the 2 lies and 1 truth.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna play a few games, too. So, we're gonna do that one. See how well y'all know us.
I had 2 people today ask me, were that what we were doing tonight? And I was like, no, that's Sunday.
Yeah, that's Sunday.
That's Sunday, so.
We just haven't figured out the time yet.
I work Sunday morning, but I'll be back home by 8 o'clock in the morning.
Well, we don't want to
go in at 3:30. I'll be back home by 8. So, sorry, I'll be open.
We could do like a 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon live. You want to do an early one?
Yeah, that'll work.
People are out of church. Those that go to church that I didn't offend tonight about calling church a cult. Sorry.
Well, we're not saying church is a cult. We're just saying that particular church, and there is churches across the United States that are, but I'm not saying every church is.
Well, there's I did a comparison technically, talking about cults. And when you look at the definition of a cult and what a cult is, churches absolutely fall under the definition of a cult. So then you have to look at that and look at the rules and the behaviors inside the church itself to differentiate between the two. But they do actually fall underneath cults. I've actually been a part of an actual cult. So it was very mind-blowing to learn all that. Are you still planning on coming on for Bourbon Days? Me or Kendall?
It is not me. I don't know what Bourbon Days are.
Did I promise to come do something that I totally forgot I promised to come do?
She's got so many pokers in the fire.
Look, if it ain't on my calendar on my phone that tells me a couple days in advance, I forget it. At this point. Dave said, "Babe, you didn't pay my credit card." And I said, "Yeah, I did." He said, "Which one did you pay?" And I said, "Oh, I paid this one." He's like, "Yeah, you didn't pay Capital One." I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, I forgot about Capital One for 3 months now because I don't have it scheduled." So I have to fix Capital One this week.
Now I can't forget. I have my Dell account, and it's due on the 10th. If you don't pay it on the 10th, it doubles in price. I
Holy
was
shit.
so mad at myself this month because it was like I thought about it on the 12th. It
So
doubled.
I had done that a while back because we had an issue getting the it wouldn't let me pay with my debit card. It only wanted to link the bank account, and then I had that totally screwed up. So then trying to get it fixed, it didn't get fixed, so I didn't get paid. So then I had to get the payments fixed, got the payments fixed, and I thought they were still doing the payments, and they weren't. They just did the behind payment, not the current payment. So now I've got to go fix that again. So I said I was coming to Bourbon Festival. You know, Ellen Dragon, I probably did, and I totally forgot about it. And no, evidently I'm not. I'm not going anywhere for a little bit. I have I do farmers market the second and fourth Saturday of every month. And then now I just signed up for a big trade days. That last time I did it 2 years ago. It was their very first event, and I made in one day made $600. So I'm signed up to do that. And on top of that, decided I was adding into what I put in my booth. So I'm now in candy baking hell. I'm covered in powdered sugar. It's not even funny. I looked down at my shirt earlier and I'm like, oh, that's cute.
I don't know if any of y'all follow the baby reindeer case, but he just won a Grammy for that show on Netflix.
Seriously?
Yeah, he won a Grammy. And 2 weeks ago, which I just had the link sent to me today, he released the voicemails from Martha after he won the Grammy. He released some of the real voicemails that she left him. And, you know, she's been denying all along that it was her, that she never did the things he accused her of.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited to go and listen to those voicemails because it obviously the person that sent it to me says, hold on, because it gets worse. And evidently the voicemails are bad. I was so down the rabbit hole on the Richard Gard case with Baby Reindeer. That was the first live I ever did on my TikTok.
Was it in Kentucky? Or was there another one? Lord, I don't remember trying to go to that. Should be in Kentucky. Yeah, it's what I thought was in Kentucky. Because I know that Tracy and them just did one. I'm sure a certain someone. Hi, Tori. How's that house of cards, bitch? Oh, that's gonna be so much fun.
Don't do that, Brandy. I don't like drama and I don't like confrontation. Don't cause me to have confrontation.
Don't make me call you her name.
I'm trying so bad to quit being, the mean girl society.
P. Diddy case. I don't even know if I want to go there with P. Diddy.
I would love to do the P. Diddy case. The P. Diddy case. I found out today that Steve Harvey is on the list.
Holy shit! Really?
Yes.
So many people that are popping up on the list. I'm just like, because I'm laughing and I'm sharing the political things that are inappropriate, where it's like Clinton on the phone, like somebody saying, "Hey, P. Diddy just dropped the list," and she's like, "Do it now." And
listen, the P. Diddy case though would be a good case to do because it's going to continuously be ongoing. And those are going to be some cases that we can get the files, or I can get the files through Emily, and can have the real casework on that one.
We can start looking at it.
I mean, it's going to be a doozy though.
It's
Diddle the Diddy.
Diddle the Diddy.
Yeah, Emily ended up being in she was in LA this week when they brought him in. She ended up going to court. She did a whole live on it, and she was in the courtroom.
Oh, wow.
Because she was upset that they didn't have him handcuffed. He walked into the courtroom with his hands behind his back, but no handcuffs on him.
Ellen Dragon, if I name an episode Diddle the Ditty, just know it's for you.
It's because of you.
Loving that. Oh, I'm going to have to now.
All right, guys. I got to get going. I got to be up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, yuck. Yeah, I've got baking to do. I'm behind. I didn't get what I was trying to get done today because whole catastrophe in the kitchen. It's fine. It's fine. It's why I'm covered in powdered sugar. It's fine. We will see y'all Sunday. Sunday, like 3:00 ish. I'm here all night. Better don't.
Be 4:00 Eastern time. But we'll be here. I appreciate you guys and all those that go back and watch it later. I appreciate you guys too.
Make sure y'all go and leave us a thumbs up and like the stream. That is a free way to support. And thank you.
That was a lot of baby oil. They had to have a forklift. It was 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Wow. Thank you for those of y'all that gave super chats. It is greatly appreciated. So appreciative. And y'all have a good rest of your week. If you're in Florida and in the path of the hurricane, please be safe. Please be safe. And everyone else, y'all have a good night.
Night, guys.
Turn it on.